Welcome to Top 7 Incredible Stories.
Iru Onodore was a Japanese intelligence officer sent to the Philippines during World War II. In 1945, the war ended, but Onodore didn't believe it. He had been trained never to surrender and thought the leaflets announcing Japan's defeat were enemy propaganda. So he stayed hidden in the jungle for nearly 30 years. Living off bananas, stolen rice, and wild animals, Onodore evaded search parties and refused to give up. Over time, his fellow soldiers either surrendered or died, but Onodore stayed true to his orders: never surrender. Never take your own life. Finally, in 1974, a Japanese traveler found him and brought back his old commanding officer, now a civilian, who personally ordered him to stand down. Onodore, still in uniform, saluted and surrendered. He returned to Japan a national legend, and a man out of time. Igor Sikorsky was born in 1889 in Kiev, in the Russian Empire, now Ukraine. Fascinated by flight, he built flying machines as a teenager, even a crude helicopter that couldn't quite get off the ground. After moving to the US in 1919, Sikorsky built airplanes and became a respected engineer. But he never let go of his dream of vertical flight. In 1939, after years of experiments and failures, Sikorsky successfully flew the VS-300, the first practical single-rotor helicopter. Unlike previous attempts, his design used a large main rotor and a smaller tail rotor to counteract spin, a setup still used today. In 1942, the US military adopted his improved R-4, the world's first mass-produced helicopter. Sikorsky changed aviation forever, enabling rescue missions, medevacs, and vertical takeoff in ways no fixed-wing plane could. He died in 1972, but his name still flies, literally, on Sikorsky helicopters.
Desmond Doss was a U.S. Army medic in World War II, but he was different. He was a conscientious objector, a devout Seventh-day Adventist who refused to carry a weapon. Many in his unit mocked him, calling him a coward. But everything changed in May 1945, during the brutal Battle of Hacksaw Ridge on Okinawa. Under relentless enemy fire, Doss ran into danger again and again, dragging wounded soldiers to the cliff's edge and lowering them to safety, alone. He was shot by a sniper, hit by a grenade, and had shrapnel embedded in his body, but kept going. By the end, he had saved 75 men, including some who had once bullied him. When asked how he did it, he said, "I just kept praying, Lord, please, help me get one more." Desmond Doss became the first conscientious objector to receive the Medal of Honor. He never touched a weapon, but he became one of the most fearless heroes in U.S. military history. In 1968, deep in the jungles of Vietnam, a 12-man Special Forces team was surrounded by enemy troops. Most men would run from that kind of fight, but not Roy Benavidez. Without orders and armed with only a knife and a medic bag, he jumped from a helicopter straight into the chaos. He was shot, hit by shrapnel, stabbed by a bayonet, but for 6 brutal hours, he dragged wounded soldiers to safety, called in airstrikes, and kept the enemy at bay. When helicopters were shot down, he rescued the survivors. When ammo ran out, he used his bare hands. By the end, Roy was so badly wounded they zipped him into a body bag. But just before they closed it, he spit in the medic's face, a final act of defiance to stay alive. He saved at least 8 lives that day. Roy Benavidez was later awarded the Medal of Honor and became one of the most fearless heroes in U.S. military history.
Captain Edward John Smith, born in 1850 in England, was a seasoned British mariner and the respected captain of the RMS Titanic. He had over 40 years of maritime experience and was known as the millionaire's captain because wealthy passengers often requested him to command their voyages. The Titanic, the largest and most luxurious ship of its time, was meant to be his final voyage before retirement. On April 14, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. Despite efforts to steer the ship and manage evacuation, it sank in the early hours of April 15, with over 1,500 lives lost. Captain Smith went down with the ship, and his final actions remain the subject of both admiration and debate. Some recall him calmly assisting others believe he retreated in despair. To this day, Captain Smith is remembered as a tragic figure, caught in one of history's most famous maritime disasters.
What if I told you the man who painted the Mona Lisa also sketched helicopters, robots, and submarines 400 years before they were invented? Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just an artist. He was an architect, engineer, scientist, and even an anatomist. His notebooks are filled with over 7,000 pages of inventions, experiments, and ideas that seemed impossible for his time, but many turned out to predict the future. He explored human bodies in secret to understand how muscles and organs worked, just so he could draw more accurately. He studied water, flight, and even built early versions of machines we use today. And the craziest part? He had no formal education. Everything he knew he learned by observing the world and asking questions no one else dared to ask. Leonardo didn't just create art, he created ideas that outlived centuries. This wasn't just talent, this was vision.
In 1938, a young British man cancelled his vacation and saved 669 lives. His name was Nicholas Winton. When he saw Jewish children fleeing the Nazis in Czechoslovakia, he sprang into action. He organized trains, forged documents, and found homes for every child, all before war broke out. And then, he never told a soul. Not his friends. Not even his wife. 50 years later, she found his scrapbook. The world finally learned. Nicholas Winton saved 669 children from the Holocaust. On a TV show in 1988, they surprised him by filling the audience with those very children, now grown. A room full of people. Alive because one man refused to look away. If it's not impossible, he said, there must be a way to do it.
Make sure to watch until the end for the most incredible story of all. Let's get started.